Before we begin, take a gentle moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It truly helps this space continue to grow, and it allows us to keep creating calm, thoughtful journeys like this one. Now, dim the lights, settle into your favorite resting place, and let your breathing slow. Tonight, we drift back thousands upon thousands of years to the Stone Age. Imagine a world without the hum of traffic, without glowing screens, without the distant buzz of electricity. The air is crisp and clean. The sky, unclouded by city lights, reveals a breathtaking ocean of stars. The Stone Age stretches across an immense span of time, far longer than recorded history, longer than the rise and fall of empires, longer even than the invention of writing itself. It is the vast opening chapter of the human story. The Stone Age began over 3 million years ago, when early human ancestors first shaped simple tools from stone. These were not polished sculptures or finely engineered devices. They were rough, chipped rocks, carefully struck to create sharp edges. Yet in those edges lay the beginning of innovation. A stone flake could cut through animal hide, slice meat, scrape bark, or carve wood. With one small adjustment to nature, survival became just a little more manageable. Early humans did not live in houses, nor did they build cities. They moved with the rhythm of the land. Small groups traveled across grasslands, along rivers, and through forests. They followed migrating herds and seasonal plants. Life was shaped by observation, by knowing when the berries ripened, when the rivers flooded, when the herds returned. Fire was one of the greatest discoveries of this era. Imagine the wonder of seeing flames dance for the first time. At first, fire was likely borrowed from nature, from lightning strikes that set trees ablaze. Eventually, humans learned to control it. Fire brought warmth during cold nights. It kept predators at bay. It transformed food, making it softer, safer, and easier to digest. Around a flickering fire, stories were born. Community deepened in its glow. The Stone Age is divided into 3 long periods: the Paleolithic, the Mesolithic, and the Neolithic. The Paleolithic, often called the Old Stone Age, lasted the longest. During this time, humans were hunter-gatherers. They relied on wild plants, nuts, seeds, fish, and animals. Tools gradually improved. Instead of a single chipped stone, people crafted hand axes, spear points, and scrapers. Picture a vast Ice Age landscape. During parts of the Paleolithic, enormous sheets of ice covered much of the northern world. Woolly mammoths roamed across frozen plains. Saber-toothed cats stalked their prey. Early humans adapted to these cold environments. They wore clothing made from animal hides, stitched together with bone needles. They built shelters from wood, stone, and even mammoth bones. Despite the harshness of their world, there was beauty. In caves across Europe, Asia, and beyond, early artists painted on stone walls. Using natural pigments made from crushed minerals, charcoal, and ochre, they created vivid images of bison, horses, deer, and handprints. Some of these paintings still remain today, tens of thousands of years later. Their colors whisper across time. These paintings were not random decorations. They may have held deep meaning, perhaps spiritual, perhaps symbolic. Some scholars believe they were linked to rituals, storytelling, or hopes for successful hunts. Imagine standing in a dim cave, lit only by torchlight, watching shadows flicker across painted animals that seem almost alive. Communication in the Stone Age was rich and expressive, even without written language. Voices carried stories, gestures conveyed warnings, songs may have echoed across valleys. Language itself likely grew more complex during this time, allowing humans to share knowledge and plan together. Family bonds were essential. Survival depended on cooperation. Elders shared wisdom about the land. Adults worked together to hunt and gather. Children learned by watching, practicing, and listening. There were no classrooms, yet learning was constant. Stone Age tools were not only practical, they were ingenious. Flint, a type of stone that fractures into sharp edges, became especially valuable. When struck carefully, it could produce blades sharper than many modern steel knives. Crafting tools required skill and patience. Each strike had to be deliberate. A mistake could shatter the entire piece. Over time, humans began to spread across the globe. From Africa, where our species first evolved, groups migrated into Europe, Asia, Australia, and eventually the Americas. They crossed land bridges exposed during the Ice Age. They navigated coastlines and rivers. With each new landscape came new challenges and new adaptations. The Mesolithic period marked a time of transition. The Great Ice Age began to recede. Glaciers melted, reshaping rivers and coastlines. Forests expanded into areas once covered by ice. Animals changed. Some large Ice Age creatures disappeared, while smaller game became more common. Humans adapted again, crafting smaller, more refined tools known as microliths. Fishing became increasingly important. People carved harpoons from bone and antler. They hollowed out logs to create early canoes. Nets may have been woven from plant fibers. Rivers and lakes became steady sources of food. And then, slowly, came one of the most profound changes in human history. During the Neolithic period, people began to farm. Instead of constantly moving, some groups settled in one place. They planted seeds. They domesticated animals. Wheat and barley were cultivated. Sheep and goats were herded. Imagine the first time someone intentionally placed seeds into soil, waited patiently, and saw green shoots emerge. Farming required planning, patience, and trust in the seasons. It also allowed for more permanent homes. Villages formed. Mud brick houses clustered together. Storage pits held surplus grain. With settled life came new inventions. Pottery was shaped from clay and hardened by fire. Containers allowed people to store food and water more efficiently. Weaving developed, creating textiles from plant fibers and wool. Polished stone tools replaced rougher versions. Axes could clear forests for fields. The rhythm of life changed. Days were structured by planting and harvest. Communities grew larger. Trade networks formed, exchanging materials like obsidian, shells, and decorative stones across surprising distances. Even in these early villages, there was art. Decorative patterns adorned pottery. Beads were strung into necklaces. Carvings shaped from stone and bone reflected creativity and belief. Through it all, the Stone Age was not a time of stillness. It was a time of continuous adaptation. Each generation built quietly upon the knowledge of the previous one. Each discovery, no matter how small, shaped the path forward. As you rest and let your thoughts wander, imagine yourself sitting beside a gentle fire under a vast prehistoric sky. The stars shine just as brightly then as they do now. The wind moves softly across open plains. Somewhere in the distance, a group gathers, sharing food and stories after a long day. The Stone Age reminds us that Human history is deep and enduring. Long before cities and satellites, there were hands shaping stone tools. There were voices telling stories in the dark. There were dreams carried beneath endless constellations. And as we close this first chapter of our journey, allow your breathing to slow even further. Let the ancient world settle softly around you. If you're enjoying this peaceful exploration, remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your support allows these calm, uninterrupted stories to continue. No adverts, just quiet journeys through time. Now rest, and when you are ready, we will continue deeper into the Stone Age. Take another slow, comfortable breath. Let your shoulders soften. Let your jaw unclench. And as you continue this quiet journey through deep time, remember that you can always support the channel by liking the video and subscribing. It helps keep these peaceful, uninterrupted stories flowing, with no adverts, just calm exploration. Now, we continue. Imagine the early morning light spreading across a wide prehistoric valley. Mist lingers above a winding river. The air is cool, filled with the scent of damp earth and wild grass. A small group begins to stir from their rest. There are no alarms, no clocks, only the rising sun and the quiet awareness of a new day. In the Paleolithic world, mornings often began with preparation. Tools were checked, spears were examined for cracks, stone edges were resharpened with careful, rhythmic tapping. This sound, stone against stone, was one of the earliest sounds of human craftsmanship. Stone tools were more than objects. They were lifelines. Different stones served different purposes. Flint and obsidian could be shaped into razor-sharp blades. Basalt was heavier, ideal for pounding and grinding. Sandstone helped smooth wooden shafts. Knowledge of local geology was passed down through generations, quietly and precisely. Obsidian, a volcanic glass, was especially prized. When fractured, it produced edges so sharp that even modern surgeons recognize its precision. Imagine discovering such a material in a rugged volcanic landscape, recognizing its potential and shaping it into something useful. This was innovation born purely from observation and patience. Hunting required cooperation and strategy. Early humans did not rely on strength alone. They relied on planning. Groups studied animal behavior carefully. They understood migration routes, watering holes, and grazing patterns. Some hunts may have involved driving animals toward natural traps, like cliffs or narrow ravines. Picture a group moving silently through tall grass. Their breathing is steady. Their eyes remain fixed on a distant herd. The air feels tense yet focused. Success meant nourishment for many days. Failure meant hunger. But hunting was only part of the story. Gathering provided a steady and reliable source of nutrition. Wild fruits, edible roots, nuts, seeds, and leafy greens were essential. Women, men, and children likely all participated in gathering, depending on the culture and environment. Knowledge of plants was vast and detailed. Some plants healed, others harmed. Some provided fiber for weaving, others yielded natural dyes. Over time, early humans developed tools specifically for plant processing. Grinding stones were used to crush seeds into coarse flour. Mortars and pestles made from stone allowed for more efficient preparation of food. These small innovations gradually shaped diets and daily routines. Water was sacred and necessary. Rivers, lakes, and springs were central to survival. Camps were often established nearby. Waterways also acted as natural highways, guiding migration and travel. Imagine paddling across a calm lake in a hollowed log canoe, the surface reflecting clouds drifting slowly above. The relationship between humans and animals was complex. While some animals were hunted, others were observed with fascination. Dogs were likely among the first animals domesticated. Wolves, drawn to human camps by food scraps, gradually formed a partnership with people. Over generations, this bond deepened. Dogs became companions, guardians, and hunting partners. This quiet friendship between species changed the course of history. A watchful dog could alert a camp to danger. It could help track prey. It could offer warmth on cold nights. In return, humans offered food and protection. Clothing in the Stone Age was both practical and ingenious. Animal hides were scraped clean with stone tools, then softened using fat and careful stretching. Bone needles, some remarkably fine, were used to stitch pieces together. Imagine the patience required to thread sinew through a small bone eye, crafting garments sturdy enough to withstand icy winds. Adornment also appeared early in human history. Beads made from shells, animal teeth, and carved stones were strung into necklaces and bracelets. Pigments, like red ochre, were used to decorate skin and objects. These expressions suggest identity, belonging, and perhaps spiritual belief. Burial practices offer some of the most touching glimpses into Stone Age emotion. Archaeological discoveries reveal graves where individuals were laid to rest with tools, ornaments, and sometimes flowers. This suggests care, remembrance, and possibly belief in an afterlife. Even tens of thousands of years ago, humans grieved and honored their dead. Caves served many purposes. Some were temporary shelters, others became places of ritual and art. Deep within certain caves, far from natural light, paintings and engravings were created. Reaching. These chambers required intention. Torches illuminated walls where artists carefully painted animals with surprising detail and movement. In some caves, handprints remain, created by placing a hand against stone and blowing pigment around it. These handprints feel deeply personal. They are silent greetings from the distant past, a reminder that someone stood there, breathing, just as we do now. Music may have echoed through valleys and caverns. Archaeologists have discovered simple flutes carved from bird bones and mammoth ivory. Imagine the soft, haunting sound of a bone flute drifting into the evening air. Music likely strengthened social bonds, accompanied rituals, and soothed children to sleep. Seasons guided life. In colder months, groups may have sought sheltered areas. In warmer seasons, they followed migrating animals or ripening plants. The natural world was not separate from them. It was home, teacher, and provider. Time itself was experienced differently. Without written calendars, people observed the cycles of the moon, the shifting position of stars, the lengthening and shortening of days. The sky served as a vast, silent clock, constellations rose and set predictably, marking seasonal change. As the Mesolithic period unfolded, environments continued to transform. Forests thickened in some regions. Coastal areas expanded as ice melted and sea levels rose. Humans adapted to marine life, harvesting shellfish and fish more systematically. Middens, ancient piles of shells, still mark these early coastal communities. Small innovations accumulated quietly. The bow and arrow emerged, allowing hunters to strike from a distance with greater precision. This changed hunting strategies significantly. It required skill, coordination, and practice. Stone Age children grew up immersed in learning through observation. There were no textbooks, yet knowledge flowed continuously. A child might learn which berries were safe, how to track animal footprints, how to read subtle changes in wind direction. These lessons were practical, immediate, and vital. Community likely offered comfort. Even in a challenging world, laughter probably echoed around evening fires. Stories passed from elder to child, preserving memory long before writing existed. Myth and reality blended in tales of animals, spirits, and ancestors. As we drift through this ancient landscape, notice how much depended on patience. Patience to shape stone, patience to track prey, patience to wait for crops to grow. Life moved at the pace of seasons, not seconds. And perhaps that is part of what makes the Stone Age feel so calming to imagine. There were dangers, certainly, but there was also closeness to land, to sky, to one another. Take a slow breath now. Picture the sun setting over a prehistoric plain. The sky glows with soft amber and deep violet. A small fire crackles gently. Above, countless stars begin to appear, undimmed by artificial light. We will continue exploring this vast and fascinating era together. And if you are finding comfort in this slow journey through time, remember to like the video and subscribe. Your quiet support allows these peaceful stories to continue, uninterrupted, ad-free, and crafted for rest. Now settle deeper. The Stone Age still has many more stories to share. Let your breathing remain slow and steady. There is nowhere else you need to be. The world outside can wait. For now, we stay here, in a time long before cities, before roads, before written words, a time when the earth itself felt vast and untamed. Imagine standing at the edge of a wide savanna. Tall grasses sway gently in the breeze. In the distance, herds of grazing animals move like shadows across the land. The air is warm, filled with a soft hum of insects. This is one of the landscapes where early humans thrived. Africa is the birthplace of our species. Fossil discoveries reveal that Homo sapiens first appeared there over 300,000 years ago. Before that, other human ancestors walked the same terrain. Homo habilis, Homo erectus, and others whose names we now carefully piece together from fragments of bone. Homo erectus was among the first to master long-distance travel. They had longer legs than earlier ancestors, allowing them to walk and run more efficiently. Over thousands of years, they spread beyond Africa into parts of Asia and Europe. Imagine the courage required to leave familiar lands and step into the unknown, guided only by instinct and curiosity. The human brain gradually grew larger and more complex. With that growth came enhanced problem-solving abilities, memory, and imagination. Tools became more symmetrical, more refined. Hand axes were shaped with remarkable balance, as though their makers had an innate sense of geometry. These tools were not rushed. Crafting one could take hours of focused effort. Each strike of stone against stone had to be precise. A single miscalculation could ruin the piece. This careful process required foresight, the ability to picture the finished tool before it existed. Fire, once feared, became a companion. Evidence suggests that humans were controlling fire at least 400,000 years ago, perhaps even earlier. Campsites often centered around a hearth. Ash layers found by archaeologists mark places where ancient flames once flickered. Cooking food changed human evolution in subtle yet profound ways. Cooked meat and vegetables became easier to chew and digest. This allowed bodies to extract more energy. Some scientists believe this contributed to brain development, as energy could be redirected from digestion to cognition. As night fell across the Stone Age world, darkness was deep and absolute. Without artificial light, the stars must have felt overwhelming in their brilliance. The Milky Way would have stretched clearly overhead, a luminous river across the sky. Early humans likely noticed patterns in these stars, even if they did not name them as we do. Weather shaped daily life. Rainstorms could flood camps, droughts could force migration. Ice Age winters were particularly harsh. In colder regions, humans constructed shelters partially underground to conserve warmth. Some were framed with wood and covered in hides. Others used mammoth bones as structural supports, forming surprisingly sturdy dwellings. Inside these shelters, life continued quietly. Tools were repaired, clothing was stitched, food was shared. Children listened to stories told by firelight. Imagine the warmth of that small enclosed space while wind howled outside across frozen plains. Different human species sometimes overlapped in time. Neanderthals, for example, lived across Europe and Western Asia for hundreds of thousands of years. They were strong, skilled hunters with large brains. For a time, Homo sapiens and Neanderthals shared the same landscapes. Genetic evidence shows that these groups even interbred. Many people alive today carry a small percentage of Neanderthal DNA. This means their story is not separate from ours. It is woven into our very cells. Neanderthals created tools, buried their dead, and possibly made symbolic objects. They adapted to cold climates with stocky builds that conserved heat. For many years, they were misunderstood as primitive. Modern research paints a far more nuanced picture, one of intelligence and resilience. Eventually, Neanderthals disappeared around 40,000 years ago. The reasons are still debated. Climate change, competition, and interbreeding may all have played roles. The Stone Age holds mysteries that remain unsolved, quietly waiting beneath layers of soil and stone. As Homo sapiens spread further across the globe, they encountered diverse ecosystems, dense rainforests, open grasslands, rugged mountains, coastal shores rich with marine life. With each new environment came adaptation. In Australia, evidence suggests humans arrived over 60,000 years ago. this required sea travel, even if only across short distances. Simple watercraft must have been built, perhaps from logs or bundles of reeds. The open water would have felt vast and uncertain. In colder northern regions, tailored clothing became increasingly important. Fur-lined boots, layered garments, hats to preserve body heat. Survival depended on preparation and skill. Stone Age diets were surprisingly varied. While meat often receives attention, plant foods were equally essential. Wild grains, legumes, fruits, and tubers provided fiber and nutrients. In some areas, seafood formed a major part of daily meals. Dental evidence shows that early humans sometimes used toothpicks, likely small twigs, to remove food from between teeth. Even in prehistory, personal care existed in subtle ways. The pace of change during most of the Stone Age was slow. Thousands of years might pass with only gradual shifts in tool design or settlement patterns. This slowness feels almost unimaginable today. Yet, within that pace, steady innovation continued. Cave art evolved as well. In places like Lascaux in France and Altamira in Spain, animals are painted with extraordinary realism. Some paintings use the natural contours of cave walls to create a sense of depth and movement. Artists carefully selected surfaces where rock bulges enhance the shape of a bison's shoulder or a horse's flank. Pigments were prepared by grinding minerals into fine powders and mixing them with water, saliva, or animal fat. Brushes may have been made from plant fibers or animal hair. In some cases, paint was blown through hollow bones to create soft sprays of color. These artworks suggest not only skill, but imagination. The ability to represent the world symbolically is a defining human trait. It connects us across millennia. Stone Age people likely held spiritual beliefs closely tied to nature. The sun, moon, animals, rivers, all may have carried meaning beyond the physical. Small carved figurines, discovered in various regions, sometimes called Venus figures, depict human forms with exaggerated features. Their exact purpose remains unknown, but they hint at ritual or symbolic thought. As farming slowly began to take root in some areas, daily life shifted again. Fields required tending. Harvests required storage. Permanent settlements allowed populations to grow. With growth came new challenges: disputes over resources, emerging social roles, and increased labor. Yet in this era, cooperation remained essential. Communities built together, they harvested together, they celebrated together. Now, imagine a quiet evening in a small Neolithic village. Mud brick homes stand clustered near a field of ripening grain. Smoke rises gently from cooking fires. A dog rests near the doorway. Somewhere nearby, someone shapes clay into a simple bowl. The sky begins to darken. Stars appear once more, just as they have for hundreds of thousands of years. The rhythm of life continues, steady, patient, enduring. Take another slow breath. Feel the vastness of this time period. The Stone Age is not just a distant chapter. It is the foundation of everything that followed. And as we continue this calm exploration together, remember that your support, liking the video, and subscribing allows these peaceful, uninterrupted journeys to continue. No adverts, no rush, just slow storytelling designed to help you rest. Settle deeper now. There are still many more gentle stories waiting in the ancient past. let your body sink a little deeper into comfort. Release the weight of the day. The modern world can fade into the background now. There are no notifications here, no deadlines, only wind across ancient grasslands and the steady rhythm of early human life. Imagine walking along a coastline during the late Stone Age. The sea stretches endlessly before you, its surface glowing under a pale sunrise. Waves roll gently onto the shore, leaving behind shells, seaweed, and small crabs scuttling sideways across wet sand. For many Stone Age communities, coastlines were places of abundance. Shellfish were easy to gather and rich in nutrients. Clams, mussels, and oysters could be collected at low tide. Over time, discarded shells formed large mounds known today as middens. These quiet piles of ancient meals remain as evidence of daily life thousands of years ago. Fishing techniques gradually became more sophisticated. Early fish hooks were carved from bone or antler. Some were delicately curved, shaped with careful precision. Nets were likely woven from plant fibers, twisted patiently by hand. Imagine the repetitive motion of weaving over and over, creating something strong enough to hold the weight of a struggling fish. Water travel slowly improved. Simple rafts may have been constructed from logs tied together with vines. Dugout canoes, carved from single tree trunks, allowed people to move along rivers and lakes with greater ease. The steady dip of a paddle into still water must have been a familiar, soothing sound. Further inland, forests spread as the Ice Age receded. Dense woodlands replaced open tundra in many regions. This shift required new tools and strategies. Large spears designed for mammoths were less useful in thick forests. Instead, lighter weapons, bows and arrows, allowed hunters to move quietly among trees. The bow itself was a remarkable invention. It required flexibility, strength, and careful craftsmanship. Wood had to be selected thoughtfully. String was often made from twisted animal sinew or plant fibers. When drawn back and released, the arrow flew with focused energy. It was a quiet but powerful innovation. Stone Age people were keen observers of animal behavior. They recognized patterns in movement, mating seasons, and migration routes. They studied tracks pressed into soft soil, a broken twig, a faint indentation, a distant sound. All were clues in a larger story written by the land. Tracking was not rushed. It required patience. It required stillness. In many ways, it was a form of deep listening, something we rarely practice today. As communities became more settled during the Neolithic period, architecture slowly evolved. Early homes were often circular or rectangular structures made from mud bricks, wood, and stone. Roofs were thatched with reeds or grasses. Floors were sometimes plastered smooth with clay. In some villages, homes were built very close together, almost touching. This closeness may have strengthened community bonds. Ladders sometimes provided access through roof openings rather than doors at ground level. Movement through the village would have felt different from modern streets, more vertical, more interconnected. One remarkable Neolithic site, Çatalhöyük, in present-day Turkey, reveals a densely packed settlement dating back over 9,000 years. There were no clear streets. Homes were entered from above. Wall paintings decorated interiors. It was a vibrant, living community. Inside these homes, daily tasks unfolded quietly. Grain was ground using heavy stone querns. The repetitive grinding motion was labor-intensive but essential. Over time, this activity even shaped the bones and muscles of those who performed it regularly. Pottery became increasingly refined. Clay was shaped by hand into bowls, jars, and storage vessels. Some pots were decorated with simple patterns, lines, dots, or geometric shapes. Once dried, they were fired in open hearths, transforming soft clay into hardened ceramic. Pottery changed food storage dramatically. Surplus grain could be kept safe from moisture and pests. Soups and stews could be simmered slowly over fire. Cooking methods expanded beyond roasting. Agriculture spread gradually across different regions of the world. In the Fertile Crescent, wheat and barley were among the earliest cultivated crops. In East Asia, rice began to be domesticated. In the Americas, maize would eventually become central to many cultures. The domestication of animals also expanded. Sheep provided wool and milk. Goats were hardy and adaptable. Cattle offered strength for labor as well as meat and hides. Chickens and pigs followed in various regions. Domestication required observation and care. Animals had to be fed, protected, and bred selectively. Over generations, wild traits softened. Horn shapes changed. Body sizes shifted. The relationship between humans and animals deepened into mutual dependence. With farming came a new relationship to time. Instead of following migrating herds, people began following planting cycles. Seasons became even more significant. The success of a harvest could determine the well-being of an entire community. This reliance on crops introduced both stability and vulnerability. A good harvest brought abundance. A failed harvest brought hardship. Weather patterns, once simply part of the landscape, now carried even greater weight. As villages grew, specialization slowly emerged. Not everyone needed to gather food every day. Some individuals could focus more on crafting tools, shaping pottery, weaving textiles, or performing rituals. Skills became more refined. Trade networks expanded quietly across surprising distances. Obsidian from volcanic regions has been found hundreds of miles from its source. Seashells appear far inland. This suggests that long before written records, people exchanged goods, ideas, and perhaps stories across wide territories. These exchanges were likely peaceful as often as they were competitive. A journey to trade goods might involve days of walking through forests and plains. The meeting of two groups would have been significant, an opportunity to share resources and knowledge. Stone monuments began to appear in some regions during the later Stone Age. Massive stones were arranged in circles or aligned with celestial events. Göbekli Tepe, for example, predates pottery and farming in its region, yet features enormous carved pillars arranged deliberately. The purpose of such sites remains a mystery. They may have been places of gathering, ritual, or seasonal celebration. Their construction required cooperation on a large scale. Planning, labor, coordination. Imagine standing among towering stones under an open sky, feeling both small and connected to something larger. Health in the Stone Age varied. Hunter-gatherers' diets were often diverse and nutrient-rich, but injuries and infections could be dangerous without modern medicine. Evidence shows that some individuals survived serious injuries, suggesting that communities cared for their wounded and elderly. This care speaks to compassion. A person unable to hunt or gather for a time would have depended entirely on others. That they survived indicates empathy and social support. Children grew up surrounded by nature. They learned by imitation. They likely played with miniature versions of tools. Laughter must have echoed across camps and villages, just as it does today. The Stone Age was not silent or empty. It was full of life. Birds calling at dawn, wind through tall grass, the crackle of fire, the steady rhythm of grinding grain. As you rest now, picture yourself sitting beside a quiet Neolithic field at dusk. The crops sway gently. Smoke curls into the cooling air. A dog shifts softly beside you. Somewhere nearby, someone hums a simple melody. The world feels slower, simpler, rooted in cycles that repeat year after year. Take another calm breath. We are only partway through our long and gentle exploration of this ancient era. There are still hundreds of quiet details waiting to unfold. And if you are enjoying this peaceful journey through the Stone Age, remember to like the video and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories flowing without interruption. No adverts, just steady, calming storytelling designed to help you drift. Now, close your eyes if you wish, and let the ancient world continue to settle softly around you. Let your breathing remain slow, steady, unhurried. Feel the quiet space around you. The modern world grows distant, softer, less urgent. We return again to the deep past, to a time when life unfolded in rhythm with wind, water, and sky. Imagine a wide river valley during early spring. Snow from distant mountains has begun to melt, feeding the river with cold, clear water. The ground is damp, fertile, ready for planting. In a nearby Neolithic village, people step out into the morning light, carrying simple wooden tools tipped with polished stone blades. Agriculture, though simple by modern standards, required careful attention. Fields had to be cleared of stones and roots. Soil had to be loosened using digging sticks or primitive hoes. Seeds were pressed gently into the earth by hand. There were no tractors, no machinery, only human effort and patience. The act of planting must have felt hopeful. Each seed represented possibility. Weeks later, small green shoots would emerge, fragile yet determined. Watching crops grow connected people deeply to the land. Rain was no longer just weather, it was nourishment. Sunlight was no longer just warmth, it was growth. Over time, early farmers began to understand selective breeding. They noticed which plants produced larger grains or sweeter fruits. Seeds from these plants were saved and replanted. Slowly, wild varieties transformed into domesticated crops, shaped by human intention. Grain became central to many Stone Age communities. Wheat and barley could be dried and stored for months. This created a form of security. Food for winter, food for drought. Surplus allowed populations to increase. Villages expanded gradually. With growth came the need for organization. Storage areas were constructed carefully to protect food from moisture and animals. Clay bins, woven baskets lined with pitch, and ceramic jars helped preserve precious harvests. Grinding grain into flour was labor-intensive. Large, flat stones served as grinding surfaces, with smaller stones moved back and forth across them. This repetitive motion could take hours each day. Over years, it left visible marks on bones and joints, evidence that archaeologists can still detect. Bread, in its earliest forms, was simple. Coarse flour mixed with water, flattened and cooked on heated stones. Imagine the warm, earthy smell rising as it baked. Simple, nourishing, sustaining. Animals in Neolithic settlements were more than food sources. Sheep provided wool, which was spun into thread using drop spindles. The spindle twirled slowly, twisting fibers into yarn. Weaving looms allowed cloth to be created in structured patterns. Textiles brought new possibilities. Blankets for warmth, garments shaped more precisely to the body. Clothing no longer relied solely on hides. Fabric could be lighter, more flexible, and easier to repair. Cattle, beyond providing meat and milk, became valuable for labor. Though true plowing with animals developed later, even early stages of animal assistance would have eased certain tasks. The bond between humans and domesticated animals deepened further. Milk introduced new dietary options. Cheese making may have begun in simple forms: curdled milk drained and pressed. These early experiments in food preservation allowed communities to store nutrients in different ways. As settlements grew, social structures gradually became more complex. Some individuals may have taken on leadership roles. Elders likely guided decisions, drawing on years of experience. Disputes over land or resources may have required negotiation. Yet, even with these complexities, life remained deeply connected to natural cycles. Sunrise marked the beginning of work. Sunset brought rest. The moon's phases were carefully observed. Full moons may have illuminated nighttime gatherings. In some regions, megalithic structures appeared, large stones arranged intentionally. While some famous stone circles were built later, their roots lie in Neolithic traditions. Alignments with solstices suggest that people carefully observed the movement of the sun across the horizon. Imagine standing in an open field at dawn on the longest day of the year. The sun rises precisely between two massive stones. The alignment is not accidental. It reflects careful study, patience, and collective effort. Stone Age spirituality likely centered on forces of nature. Fertility of land, animals, and people was vital. Small figurines discovered across Europe and parts of Asia often emphasize aspects of fertility. Their exact meanings remain uncertain, yet they suggest reverence for life and continuity. Burial practices became more elaborate in some areas. Tombs were constructed with stone chambers. Bodies were placed carefully, sometimes with pottery, tools, or ornaments. This care implies belief in something beyond death, or at least deep respect for memory. Trade networks expanded even further during this period. Polished stone axes made from specific types of rock have been found hundreds of miles from their source. This means journeys were undertaken, routes were remembered, and relationships between distant communities were maintained. Travel during the Stone Age was slow but purposeful. Paths formed naturally from repeated movement. Rivers served as guiding lines through landscapes. Mountain passes opened seasonal routes. communication across distances may have involved shared symbols, gestures, and perhaps early forms of symbolic markings. While true writing would not emerge until much later, abstract patterns carved into bone or stone suggest symbolic thought. The Stone Age also saw technological refinement in stone polishing. Earlier tools were often flaked. Now, axes and adzes were ground smooth against abrasive stones. This process required hours of steady effort, but resulted in stronger, more durable tools. Clearing forests for farmland required these polished axes. Trees were felled slowly, one careful strike at a time. The work was demanding but transformative. Landscapes began to change under human influence more noticeably than ever before. Despite these shifts, wilderness still dominated most of the world. Vast forests, sweeping grasslands, towering mountains. Human settlements were small pockets within immense natural systems. In coastal regions, fishing communities continued thriving. Fish were sometimes dried or smoked over low fires for preservation. The scent of smoke mingled with salty air must have been familiar and comforting. Children in these villages learned responsibility early. They may have helped gather kindling, watch younger siblings, or scare birds from crops. Learning was woven into daily life seamlessly. Music likely remained part of community gatherings. Rhythms tapped on hollow logs. Bone flutes played soft melodies. Human voices harmonized under open skies. Illness and injury were part of life, yet herbal knowledge developed gradually. Certain plants were used for soothing wounds or easing pain. Experience taught which remedies helped and which harmed. Archaeological evidence even suggests early forms of surgery. Some skulls show signs of trepanation. Small holes carefully drilled into bone with signs of healing afterward. The reasons remain debated, but the survival of patients indicates surprising skill. Time in the Stone Age moved with the seasons. There was urgency during planting and harvest, but long winter nights allowed for storytelling, tool repair, and quiet reflection. Imagine sitting inside a warm dwelling during winter. Outside, frost covers the fields. Inside, a small fire glows. Someone carefully shapes a new arrowhead. Another twists wool into thread. A child listens closely to a story about ancestors and distant lands. The sense of continuity must have been strong. Each generation inherited knowledge and passed it onward. The world changed slowly, yet steadily. Take another slow breath now. Feel the calm repetition of these ancient rhythms: planting, harvesting, weaving, shaping stone, tending fire. We are still only halfway through our gentle journey of 500 relaxing facts about the Stone Age. There are many more quiet discoveries waiting ahead. And if this slow exploration is helping you unwind, remember to like the video and subscribe. Your support ensures these peaceful, ad-free stories continue, guiding you gently through history and into rest. Now settle even deeper. The ancient fields grow quiet under starlight, and our journey continues. Take a slow breath in and let it drift out gently. Feel the quiet weight of relaxation settling in. The modern world is far away now. There are no engines, no screens, no artificial glow, only earth beneath your feet and the steady pulse of life in the Stone Age. Imagine a vast open plain at dusk. The sky is painted in soft shades of amber and violet. A small group moves carefully across the land, carrying woven baskets and simple tools. They are returning to their settlement after a long day. The air is cooling. Somewhere in the distance, birds call to one another before nightfall. By this stage in the Stone Age, communities in different parts of the world had developed unique ways of living. Though separated by mountains, rivers, and oceans, they shared something fundamental, an intimate understanding of their environment. In forested regions, wood became an essential material. Wooden tools, though rarely preserved in the archaeological record, were likely common. Spears, digging sticks, bowls carved from tree trunks, and even simple furniture would have shaped daily life. Imagine the scent of freshly carved wood, the texture of bark beneath careful hands. Stone tools were still central, but they were now part of a broader toolkit. Bone and antler were shaped into needles, fish hooks, harpoons, and decorative items. Animal sinew was dried and twisted into strong cord. Every part of a hunted animal was used thoughtfully. Meat for food, hide for clothing, bones for tools. In some regions, early communities began constructing fences or enclosures to manage livestock. These simple boundaries marked a subtle but important shift. Land was no longer only a shared wilderness. It was becoming organized, divided, tended. With farming firmly established in many areas, daily routines became predictable in new ways. Dawn brought tending to animals. Midday involved working fields or repairing structures. Evening allowed time for communal meals and conversation. Cooking techniques also evolved. Clay ovens may have been built partially underground, allowing heat to circulate evenly. Stones heated in fire were sometimes placed into containers of water to bring it to a boil. The simple act of preparing food became more varied and creative. Salt, when available, was treasured. It preserved meat and enhanced flavor. In coastal regions, salt water could be evaporated to collect precious crystals. Inland, salt deposits were carefully mined or traded for. As trade networks expanded further, certain materials became symbols of connection. Amber from northern regions traveled south. Turquoise from arid lands moved across great distances. These materials were often shaped into beads or pendants. Adornment was not merely decorative, it likely signified identity, belonging to a group, a family, a region. A necklace might tell a silent story about where someone came from. Over time, communities developed shared traditions that marked important moments in life: birth, adulthood, partnership, death. These transitions may have been accompanied by rituals, songs, or gatherings. Burial sites from the late Stone Age sometimes reveal careful positioning of the body, accompanied by tools, ornaments, or food offerings. Red ochre was occasionally sprinkled over the deceased, perhaps symbolizing life or rebirth. Imagine standing in quiet respect as a community gathers to say farewell. The air is still. Hands place simple objects beside a loved one. The act is tender, deliberate, filled with meaning. In some regions, early longhouses were constructed, large rectangular buildings that housed multiple families. These structures required coordination and planning. Wooden posts were set firmly into the ground. Roof beams were aligned carefully. Walls were sealed with woven branches coated in clay. Living under one roof fostered cooperation. Shared spaces meant shared responsibilities. Warmth from central hearths radiated outward, offering comfort during cold nights. Agricultural success also allowed populations to grow more rapidly. Larger communities meant more complex relationships. Disagreements may have arisen, but so too did opportunities for collaboration on bigger projects, like irrigation channels or communal storage facilities. Irrigation, in its simplest form, involved redirecting water from rivers or streams toward fields. Small ditches were dug to guide flow. This required observation of terrain and seasonal water levels. Water became not just a resource, but something managed. The Stone Age was also a time of experimentation. People tried new crops, tested new tool shapes, explored unfamiliar territories. Some experiments failed quietly. Others changed history. Metallurgy had not yet taken hold widely, but curiosity about materials was growing. Occasionally, native copper might have been encountered, soft, malleable, intriguing. Though true metalworking belonged to later eras, the seeds of discovery were already present. Art continued to flourish in subtle ways. Rock carvings, known as petroglyphs, appeared in various regions. These images, animals, human figures, abstract patterns, were etched directly into stone surfaces. Some may have marked territories. Others may have recorded events or stories. Body decoration remained important. Natural pigments, colored skin and hair, feathers, shells, and beads were worn during gatherings. These expressions added color to a world otherwise shaped by earth tones. Weather patterns continued to influence life deeply. Periods of drought could challenge crops. Floods could reshape settlements. Communities that observed environmental signs carefully were better prepared. The relationship between humans and the land grew increasingly reciprocal. Forests were cleared, but new plants were cultivated. Animals were domesticated, but wild species were still respected and hunted. In some parts of the world, early forms of communal decision-making likely developed. Elders, experienced farmers, skilled hunters, their voices carried weight. Knowledge was valued more than possession. Time was still measured by nature. The rising of certain stars signaled planting seasons. The return of migratory birds hinted at changing weather. Stone alignments may have served as early calendars, marking solstices and equinoxes with quiet precision. Imagine standing at dawn as sunlight aligns perfectly through a narrow stone passage, illuminating a specific point inside a structure. The community watches silently. They know what this light means. It marks a turning of the year. The Stone Age was not uniform across the globe. While farming spread in some areas, other groups remained hunter-gatherers by choice or necessity. Diversity in lifestyle persisted, shaped by geography and climate. In dense rainforests, small mobile groups thrived by deep knowledge of plant life. In arid deserts, survival depended on understanding scarce water sources. Along icy coasts, marine hunting techniques were refined. Each environment produced its own quiet expertise. Health patterns began to shift as agriculture expanded. Diets in farming communities could become less varied than those of hunter-gatherers. Living in closer quarters increased the spread of certain diseases, yet farming also allowed greater population stability. The balance between benefit and challenge was delicate. As night falls now in your imagination, picture a late Stone Age settlement under a clear sky. A few small fires glow softly. The scent of wood smoke drifts upward. Voices murmur in low conversation. A child traces patterns in the dirt with a stick. An elder gazes at the stars, recognizing familiar constellations. Somewhere, a dog lifts its head briefly, then settles again. Life feels grounded, intentional, connected. Take another long, slow breath. We are moving steadily through our exploration of 500 calming glimpses into the Stone Age. Each detail adds another thread to the story, a story not of rush or noise, but of patience and quiet innovation. If this journey is helping you relax, remember you can like the video and subscribe. Your support keeps these peaceful, ad-free explorations alive, allowing us to continue drifting through history together. Now rest deeper still. The firelight flickers softly, and the ancient world continues to unfold. Take a slow, gentle breath in and let it go. Feel how steady your body has become. The noise of the present fades even further, like distant echoes dissolving into silence. We remain here in the late Stone Age, where the pace of life follows the earth itself. Imagine waking before sunrise in a small farming settlement. The air is cool and carries the faint scent of damp soil. A thin mist rests over nearby fields. Roosters do not yet crow in every region of the world, but animals are stirring. Sheep shift softly within their enclosure. A dog stretches and yawns near the doorway of a mud brick home. Inside, embers from last night's fire still glow faintly. Someone kneels to coax the flame back to life, feeding it dry twigs. A small spark catches, then grows. Fire was never taken for granted. Even after thousands of years of using it, tending flame remained an act of care and attention. Food preparation begins early. Grain stored in clay vessels is measured carefully. Grinding. Stones move in steady rhythm, back and forth, back and forth. The sound is soft, repetitive, almost meditative. Flour gathers slowly. Water is fetched from a nearby stream or well. Clay jars balance skillfully against hips or shoulders. The path to the water source is well worn from years of footsteps tracing the same route. In some settlements, wells were lined with wood or stone to prevent collapse. Digging a well required planning and cooperation. It was a shared investment in stability, in staying. As agricultural knowledge expanded, crop rotation may have been practiced in simple forms. Fields were not endlessly planted without rest. Observant farmers noticed soil exhaustion and allowed land to recover when possible. Even without scientific terminology, experience taught them balance. Seasons remain the great organizer of life. Spring planting, summer tending, autumn harvest, winter repair, and reflection. Each season carried its own mood, its own tasks, its own quiet beauty. Harvest time was likely one of the busiest and most communal periods of the year. Crops had to be gathered swiftly before storms or frost could damage them. Entire families worked side by side, cutting grain with flint sickles, bundling stalks, carrying sheaves. The flint sickle itself was an elegant tool. Small, sharp stone blades were set into a curved wooden handle using natural adhesives like tree resin. With careful motion, grain stalks could be cut efficiently. After harvest came threshing, separating grain from husks. This might involve beating bundles against a hard surface or allowing animals to walk over them. The process created dust that rose into golden clouds under the sun. Grain was then winnowed, tossed gently into the air so that wind could carry away lighter chaff. Imagine standing in an open field, tossing grain upward as a soft breeze does the sorting. In quieter months, attention turned to craft. Stone tool making had become highly refined in many regions. Polishing stones to a smooth finish required hours of patient grinding. The result was durable axes capable of clearing larger trees. Woodworking advanced as well. Mortars and tenon joints, simple yet effective ways of connecting wooden beams, may have been used in later Neolithic structures. Even without metal nails, wood could be fitted securely. Basket weaving was another essential skill. Reeds, grasses, and flexible branches were soaked, bent, and interlaced. Patterns emerged naturally through repetition. Baskets carried food, stored grain, and transported goods. Textile weaving also became more structured. Loom weights made from clay have been found at archaeological sites, evidence of vertical looms that held threads taut. The steady clack of weaving must have been a familiar household sound. Clothing styles likely varied by region and climate. In warmer areas, light woven garments were practical. In colder regions, layers of wool and fur remained necessary. Clothing may have indicated status, role, or group identity. Trade gatherings might have been social as well as economic events. People from neighboring settlements could meet periodically to exchange goods. Stories would be shared, news would travel, relationships would form. Language during this period had grown fully complex. Though no written records survive, spoken language allowed intricate communication. Plans for irrigation, hunting strategies, shared myths, all depended on spoken words passed from mouth to ear. Music continued to shape social life. Rhythmic clapping, drumming on hollow wood, bone flutes echoing softly at dusk. Music connects humans across time. Its presence in the Stone Age reminds us that creativity is ancient. Children's games likely mirrored adult activities. Miniature bows, small clay figures, play hunting and gathering. Through play, skills were practiced safely. Over generations, knowledge accumulated. Farmers learned subtle weather patterns. Hunters understood changing migration routes. Healers memorized plant properties. This knowledge was not written, it was remembered. Memory itself was a vital skill. Without books, stories were crafted in rhythmic, repetitive patterns to aid recall. Oral tradition carried history forward. In some regions, defensive structures began appearing. Simple ditches or wooden palisades surrounding settlements. These may have been precautions against conflict. As populations grew, competition over fertile land increased. Yet cooperation likely outweighed conflict in many areas. Large communal projects, like constructing longhouses or stone monuments, required shared purpose. In parts of Europe, long barrows were built as collective burial sites. These elongated mounds of earth and stone housed multiple individuals over time. They stood as lasting markers on the landscape. Imagine walking across rolling hills and seeing a long mound rising gently from the earth, a silent reminder of generations past. Environmental changes continued shaping life. Gradual warming after the Ice Age altered coastlines significantly. Some early settlements are now submerged beneath rising seas. Entire chapters of human history rest underwater. Archaeologists today dive to explore these lost landscapes, uncovering remnants of tools and dwellings preserved beneath sediment. The Stone Age was not static. It was dynamic, adaptive, inventive, but its pace remained grounded in physical labor and natural cycles. At night, after a long day, families gathered around central hearths. Meals were shared from common pots. Stories were told, perhaps about ancestors, perhaps about spirits inhabiting forests or rivers. The glow of firelight flickered across faces. Shadows danced against walls. Outside, insects hummed softly. The sky, vast and brilliant, stretched endlessly overhead. Imagine lying on your back outside the settlement, gazing at the Milky Way. No artificial light dims its brilliance. The constellations feel alive, almost within reach. Stone Age people likely navigated by these stars when traveling at night. The sky was both map and mystery. As you breathe slowly now, notice how much of their world was built on observation, of soil, of water, of animals, of stars. Attention was survival, and perhaps there is something soothing in that simplicity. A life shaped by sunrise and sunset, by planting and harvest, by shared meals and shared work. We are continuing our gentle journey through 500 calming reflections on the Stone Age. There is still more to discover, more quiet innovations, more subtle changes that shaped humanity's path. If this peaceful storytelling is helping you unwind, remember to like the video and subscribe. Your support keeps these long, uninterrupted explorations possible. No adverts, just steady, relaxing history. Now let your breathing slow even further. The village grows quiet under starlight, and our journey through the ancient world continues. Take another slow breath, in through your nose and gently out through your mouth. Feel how calm the rhythm has become. The present day feels distant now. We remain in the late Stone Age, where the earth itself sets the pace of life. Imagine a wide valley surrounded by low hills. The settlement rests near a river bend where water flows steadily year-round. Fields stretch outward in careful patches, not endless farmland, but modest clearings carved thoughtfully from woodland. By this time, humans in many regions had lived in settled communities for generations. Children were born into villages their grandparents had helped build. Knowledge of the land deepened with each passing year. Storage became increasingly important. Surplus grain meant security, but it also required protection. Raised granaries may have been built on wooden stilts to keep rodents away. Clay seals or carefully tied knots ensured that stored food remained undisturbed. The idea of ownership slowly strengthened during this era. Land cleared by a family may have been seen as theirs to cultivate. Livestock marked or recognized as belonging to certain households created early systems of responsibility and exchange. With permanence came memory tied to place. Certain trees became landmarks. Specific rocks marked boundaries. A bend in the river might hold generations of stories. Pottery styles became more distinct from region to region. Decorative patterns, zigzags, spirals, dots allowed archaeologists today to trace cultural connections across distances. These designs were not random. They reflected identity and tradition. In some areas, people began experimenting with fermentation. Simple mixtures of grains and water, left to sit, may have produced early forms of beer. Fermented drinks could have been used in ritual gatherings or communal celebrations. The presence of shared meals strengthened bonds. Large pots allowed food to be cooked for many people at once. Stews of grains, vegetables, and meat simmered slowly over low flames. Salted or smoked fish hung near fires to dry. The scent of wood smoke mingled with the earthy aroma of clay walls warmed by the sun. As communities expanded, pathways between settlements became more established. Trails worn into the earth connected villages across valleys and hills. Travelers carried goods, but also carried ideas. Technological knowledge spread gradually. A new style of tool in one region might appear hundreds of miles away generations later. Change was slow but steady. Stone tools reached remarkable levels of refinement. Arrowheads were shaped with delicate flaking patterns. Polished axes gleamed with smooth surfaces. Even grinding stones showed signs of careful shaping for comfort and efficiency. In some regions, large communal structures were built not for living, but for gathering. These may have served as meeting halls, ceremonial spaces, or seasonal assembly points. The construction of such spaces required coordination, cutting timber, shaping beams, aligning posts. Cooperation was essential. Burial practices in the later Stone Age sometimes involved collective tombs made of large stone slabs. These megalithic graves required moving stones weighing several tons. Without metal tools or wheeled vehicles, this work demanded ingenuity and teamwork. Logs may have been used as rollers, ropes of twisted fiber pulled in unison, voices called out to synchronize effort. Slowly, patiently, stones were positioned. Once complete, these tombs stood as silent guardians of memory. Over time, grass grew around them. Generations passed, yet the stones remained. Astronomical awareness deepened in some communities. Observations of the sun's rising and setting points across the year allowed early calendars to form. Solstices and equinoxes became predictable markers. Imagine a community gathering at dawn during midwinter. the sun rises at its lowest point on the horizon, people watch quietly, understanding that from this day forward, light will slowly return. These cycles provided reassurance even during the coldest, darkest months. In coastal regions, sea travel continued improving. Simple sails may have emerged in later prehistoric times, though paddles remained primary. Fishing techniques diversified, including traps placed strategically in tidal zones. Far inland, forests were steadily shaped by human presence. Controlled burning may have been used in some areas to clear underbrush and encourage the growth of certain plants. This subtle land management influenced ecosystems long before modern agriculture. Domesticated animals continued evolving alongside humans. Selective breeding shaped temperament and physical traits. Herding practices became more organized, with seasonal movement between grazing areas. Milk, wool, meat, and hides formed a stable foundation for many settlements. Daily life was physically demanding, yet deeply grounded. Hands were almost always at work, weaving, carving, planting, grinding, building. And yet, there was still time for pause. Imagine sitting beside the river in late afternoon. The sun reflects in shimmering patterns across the water's surface. A child tosses small stones into the current. An elder sits nearby, quietly repairing a fishing net. The rhythm of water is constant, soothing, eternal. Conflict likely occurred at times between neighboring groups, particularly over fertile land or water access. Some archaeological sites show evidence of defensive walls or injuries from weapons. Yet for every conflict, there were likely countless peaceful exchanges. Cooperation allowed survival in a world still shaped largely by natural forces. Spiritual beliefs remained intertwined with daily life. The land itself may have been viewed as alive. Rivers with spirits, forests with guardians, animals with symbolic meaning. Ritual objects carved from stone or bone suggest ceremonial practices. These objects were often small, portable, carried carefully. Storytelling continued binding generations together. Without written language, memory was sacred. Stories about origins, ancestors, and the forces of nature were repeated under starlit skies. The sky itself remained a constant companion. Without light pollution, the stars appeared almost impossibly bright. Meteors streaked occasionally across darkness. The moon's phases were observed closely. Time was not divided into minutes or hours. It was felt in the warmth of midday, the coolness of dusk, the length of shadows. As the Stone Age gradually approached its later transitions in some regions, subtle changes began emerging. Experiments with metals like copper would eventually mark the beginning of a new era. But for now, stone still defined tools, weapons, and daily implements. Stone endured. It connected generations. Archaeologists today uncover stone tools shaped tens of thousands of years ago. Edges still sharp. When we hold them, we hold something touched by ancient hands. Imagine that connection across unimaginable time through something as simple as shaped rock. Take another slow breath now. Feel how steady this world is. No sudden rush, no urgent noise, just cycles. Planting and harvest, sunrise and sunset, birth and memory. We are nearing the final chapters of our 500 calming reflections on the Stone Age. Yet, there are still a few more quiet moments to share. If this journey is helping you relax, remember to like the video and subscribe. Your support allows these long, uninterrupted explorations to continue. No adverts, just peaceful storytelling through history. Now settle deeper. The river continues flowing. The stars begin to appear, and the ancient world gently carries us forward. Take a slow breath in and let it drift out even more slowly. Your body feels heavier now, calmer, as if resting beside a quiet hearth at the edge of an ancient village. The Stone Age world surrounds us once more, steady, grounded, unhurried. Imagine the final light of day fading across a wide Neolithic landscape. Fields lie harvested, their golden stubble glowing softly in twilight. Beyond them, dark forests stretch toward distant hills. Smoke rises in thin ribbons from scattered homes, dissolving into the evening sky. By this late stage of the Stone Age, human life had transformed profoundly from its earliest beginnings. And yet, at its heart, it remained simple, centered on land, family, and survival. Settlements in some regions had grown larger than ever before. Dozens, sometimes hundreds, of people lived within close proximity. Pathways between homes were familiar and well-worn. Shared wells and communal ovens formed central gathering points. Food production supported these larger populations. Surplus grain allowed some members of society to focus less on farming and more on specialized crafts. Skilled toolmakers, potters, weavers, and builders refined their trades over years of repetition. Craft specialization brought subtle social change. Certain individuals became known for their skill. A finely shaped axe or beautifully decorated pot carried quiet prestige. Objects began to hold not only function, but value. Long-distance trade networks became even more impressive. Obsidian from volcanic mountains traveled across vast regions. Flint from specific quarries was recognized for its quality. Seashells from distant coasts appeared inland, carried carefully over weeks of travel. Trade was more than exchange. It was connection. It linked communities that might never see one another again, yet shared materials and ideas. In some parts of the world, early forms of counting may have emerged. Tally marks carved into bone or wood suggest attempts to track quantities, perhaps livestock, stored grain, or trade goods. Though not yet writing, these marks represent early steps toward record keeping. Timekeeping grew more precise in certain cultures. Stone alignments and earthworks were constructed with remarkable awareness of solar cycles. Some structures were designed so that sunlight entered narrow passageways only on specific days of the year. Imagine standing within such a structure at dawn. For most of the year, its interior remains dim, but on one particular morning, sunlight pierces directly through an opening, illuminating a central stone. The entire community gathers to witness this brief alignment. Moments like these anchored people to cosmic cycles, reminders that they lived within something vast and rhythmic. Agricultural knowledge had become deeply rooted. farmers understood when to plant based on frost patterns and soil temperature. They recognized signs of blight or disease in crops. They rotated grazing areas to protect pasture land. Domesticated animals had become essential partners. Dogs guarded flocks, sheep provided wool year after year. Goats thrived in rugged terrain. Cattle grew larger under selective breeding. With livestock came byproducts that shaped daily life: manure for fertilizing fields, milk for nourishment, hides for clothing and shelter. Yet even as farming dominated many regions, some communities maintained mobile lifestyles. In areas where soil was less fertile or climates more extreme, hunter-gatherer traditions continued. Diversity of human experience remained vast. In northern regions, communities adapted to colder climates with remarkable ingenuity. Insulated homes, fur-lined garments, and carefully stored food ensured survival through long winters. Further south, warmer climates allowed year-round agriculture in certain areas. Different crops thrived under different suns. The Stone Age was not a single story. It was thousands of parallel stories unfolding across continents. As populations grew, social structures became more layered. Leadership roles may have formalized in some communities. Decisions about land, trade, and defense required coordination. Simple markers of status may have emerged. Larger homes, more elaborate ornaments, rare materials. Yet compared to later civilizations, inequality remained relatively modest in many areas. Life was still shaped more by cooperation than hierarchy. Health patterns shifted subtly in agricultural societies. Diets reliant on a few staple crops sometimes led to nutritional challenges. Evidence of dental wear from grinding grain is common in skeletal remains. Yet, agricultural life also provided relative stability compared to the uncertainty of hunting large game. Medicine remained rooted in plant knowledge. Herbal remedies were passed down orally. Bones show signs of healing from fractures, indicating care and support from others. Community bonds were essential. An injured person depended entirely on their group for survival. That many survived serious injuries suggests compassion and shared responsibility. Art continued evolving. In some regions, pottery designs became increasingly intricate. Painted motifs reflected both creativity and cultural meaning. Rock art expanded beyond caves into open-air carvings on cliffs and boulders. These images, exposed to weather for thousands of years, still endure. Music, too, remained woven into life. The steady beat of a drum made from stretched hide, the soft melody of a bone flute, voices rising together during seasonal gatherings. As night deepens now in your imagination, picture a late Stone Age settlement under a brilliant canopy of stars. Fires glow warmly between homes. The air is cool and still. An elder speaks quietly, recounting a story of ancestors who once wandered far beyond the hills. Children listen closely. The story has been told many times before, yet it never loses its power. Stories preserved memory long before written language existed. Through repetition, details remained alive across generations. Stone tools, polished smooth by careful hands, rest beside hearths. Clay pots sit cooling after a long day of cooking. Woven baskets hang from wooden beams. The rhythm of breathing slows as sleep approaches for the village. One by one, fires are banked low for the night. Beyond the settlement, the land remains vast and largely untouched. Forests whisper softly in the wind. Rivers continue their steady flow toward distant seas. The Stone Age laid the foundation for everything that followed, for cities, for writing, for technology. Yet within it, there was a simplicity that feels grounding even now. A life measured by sunlight, sustained by soil, guided by stars. Take another slow breath. We are nearly at the end of our long, gentle journey through 500 relaxing reflections on the Stone Age. One final chapter remains, where we will quietly consider the threshold between this ancient era and the new ages that followed. If this peaceful exploration has helped you unwind, remember to like the video and subscribe. Your support allows these calm, ad-free storytelling journeys to continue, guiding you softly through history and into rest. Now let your body grow heavier. The firelight dims, and the ancient world waits quietly for its final telling. Before we gently close our long journey through the Stone Age, take one more slow, comfortable breath. If you have enjoyed drifting through these quiet landscapes of early humanity, remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your support allows these calm, uninterrupted stories to continue. No adverts, just peaceful exploration designed to help you rest. Now, let us step softly into the final moments of this ancient era. Imagine standing at the edge of a settlement at dawn. The sky is pale blue, slowly warming with the first light of the sun. Fields stretch outward, carefully tended. Livestock graze quietly within simple enclosures. Smoke rises from hearths as the first fires of the morning are rekindled. For thousands upon thousands of years, stone has shaped human life. Stone blades cut grain, stone axes cleared forests, stone arrowheads secured food, stone monuments marked memory. The Stone Age was not primitive in spirit. It was patient. It was inventive. It was enduring. Over time, small discoveries accumulated like pebbles along a riverbank. People noticed that certain colorful rocks behaved differently in fire. In some regions, lumps of native copper were found, soft enough to hammer into simple shapes. At first, these metals were rare curiosities, perhaps used for ornaments. But curiosity is powerful. Imagine someone placing a small piece of copper near a hearth, watching as heat softened it further. Imagine the realization that this material could be shaped not by chipping, but by hammering. A new possibility flickered into existence. The transition from stone to metal did not happen overnight. For long stretches, stone tools remained dominant. Metal was scarce, experimental. Yet, gradually, knowledge spread. Just as farming once had, just as polished stone tools once had. This slow shift marked the closing chapters of the Stone Age in some parts of the world. In others, stone tools would remain essential for thousands more years. Human history does not move in a straight, synchronized line. It unfolds differently across landscapes. As the era drew toward change, daily life in many communities still followed ancient rhythms. Farmers rose with the sun, hunters tracked quietly through forests, potters shaped clay, weavers worked patiently at their looms. Children learned by watching their elders, just as children had done for tens of thousands of years. Stories were still told beside glowing fires. The stars still guided travelers across dark terrain. The Stone Age leaves behind no written diaries, no signed names, yet it leaves something deeper. Foundations, the first tools, the first art, the first settled homes, the first domesticated animals, the first planted fields. It gave humanity its earliest architecture, its earliest engineering, its earliest astronomy. Think of the hands that shaped a flint blade with careful strikes. Those hands were not so different from ours. They felt cold. They felt warmth. They worked with focus and intention. Think of the artists deep within caves, painting animals by torchlight. They mixed pigments carefully. They chose surfaces thoughtfully. They stepped back to observe their work, perhaps feeling pride. Think of the farmers watching green shoots rise from soil for the first time. The quiet satisfaction, the cautious hope. The Stone Age was long, unimaginably long. It spans over 99% of human history. Everything we are rests upon its slow evolution. Language blossomed fully during this time. Cooperation became central to survival. Social bonds strengthened. Compassion revealed itself in healed bones and careful burials. Even leisure had its place. Moments of rest beside rivers, music drifting through dusk air, shared laughter under open skies. Imagine the very last generation living entirely within the Stone Age before metal tools began reshaping daily tasks. They would not have known they were at the edge of a new era. For them, life was simply life. Tending fields, caring for animals, raising children, honoring ancestors. Change comes quietly at first. A copper ornament here, a slightly different tool there, a new method shared by travelers. Over generations, these subtle shifts accumulate until the world feels different. But stone does not disappear. Even in the Bronze Age and beyond, stone continues to build foundations, walls, and roads. Its legacy endures. Now, as we stand gently at this threshold between ages, imagine looking back across the vast stretch of time we have traveled together. From early hunter-gatherers shaping rough flakes, to settled farmers building villages, to communities aligning stones with the movement of the sun. It is a story of adaptation, of observation, of patience. The Stone Age teaches us something quietly profound. Progress does not require speed. Innovation can unfold slowly, thoughtfully, over thousands of years. And perhaps there is comfort in that. As you rest now, picture a wide prehistoric landscape beneath a brilliant night sky. The Milky Way stretches overhead in luminous detail. A small fire crackles softly. Figures sit nearby, silhouettes against the glow. The air is cool but calm. The earth feels steady beneath you. This is where it all began. Not with noise, not with towering cities, but with stone tools shaped carefully by hand, with seeds planted gently into soil, with stories spoken beneath the stars. Let your breathing slow even further. Feel gratitude for those ancient generations whose quiet persistence built the path forward. Without them, there would be no written history, no architecture, no technology, no modern world. the Stone Age may feel distant, but it lives within us, in our creativity, our cooperation, our curiosity. As we gently close this long and peaceful journey, remember that you can support the channel by liking this video and subscribing. Your support keeps these calm, ad-free explorations alive, allowing us to continue traveling slowly through history together. Now, allow your thoughts to grow softer. The fire fades to embers, the stars shine steadily overhead, and the ancient world, vast and enduring, carries you peacefully into rest.